715 to H-Town, from the Panhandle Plains to the Valley, and everywhere in between. This is the 50/50 Podcast, powered by College Promoters USA. Join me, Hector Cano, as we cover the Texas high school club and college soccer landscape, along with an inside look at the college soccer recruiting scene. The 50/50 Podcast is a platform about the people and for the people who are dedicated to the beautiful game.
Here we go. It's another edition of Inside Texas High School Soccer, Season 3, Episode 3. I am joined by the Obi-Wan Kenobi of Texas High School Soccer, Mr. Papa Socceritis, Coach Rafa. Rafa, how are you, buddy?
Pretty good. How are you?
I am doing great. Before I forget, let me remind you, we are powered by our proud partners, College Promoters USA. They are America's premier college prep program and high school student athlete marketing service since 1997. Located locally in the San Antonio area. You can find them in the Ventura Plaza Shopping Center, but you can also find them on social media on Twitter at SATX Recruiting, as well as on Instagram at College Promoters USA, as well as on their website at collegepromotersusa.com. Rafa, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Not much. Just enjoying the day off for MLK Day. So happy Martin Luther King Day to everyone.
Yeah, happy MLK Day. Hope people are enjoying the many things, right, that make this day special, taking advantage of the day, and as well as resting, recuperating, recovering after a very busy weekend in the state of Texas with Texas High School Soccer. So how was the weekend?
Pretty good. I got to see some good games. I got to see a big comeback, which I thought the team had it in the bag, but just that one little thing can spark it up, and created a good comeback. And so congratulations to that team, which I'll get into in a bit. So I'll say that.
Right. We'll talk about it a little bit more later. But so did you have like shades of Hyde Park last year? Was it that dramatic?
Pretty much, and it came down to almost close to the wire. So it just, like I said, it just that one little change of the pace, or that one little mistake, kind of, it just opened the floodgates there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good deal. Yeah. Good. It's good to be back after a busy weekend. Obviously, as you know, also I was in Wimberley with my squad at the Lady Texan Wimberley Lady Texan Showcase, Lady Texan Cup Showcase. I think it had a couple of different names floating out there, but it was great. It was great to see some of these other schools in person as well, meet some coaches, talk with some coaches, and be able to participate, be the only private school at a very, very strong public school UIL tournament. So took away some things as well, and it was good. It was good to be a part of it. It was good to experience it as well. It was great for our players. Learned a lot about themselves as well, and it's really the reason why you do these tournaments, right?
Yeah, it's so when you compete in these tournaments, you're playing teams that you may normally not see, have different styles, but it prepares you for your district game, for your district playoffs. Well, especially for for the public schools. I know with the private schools, you guys are already in district midway through district play. I know when I coach, we would go out west to prepare. When we're in the North Side district, we played West Texas teams to get real physical teams and got us prepared for it. So when we started district play, we're ready to go and kind of flex our muscle, and it allowed us to be successful on the field.
Right. Yeah. So we're going to cover a lot of that stuff today. In case you're joining us, thank you for joining us today. So again, this is, this is episode 3, season 3, episode 3 of Inside Texas High School Soccer. We're going to cover a couple of different topics today. Obviously, we're going to talk tournament talk in terms of this past weekend's tournaments, kind of hit on a couple of things, highlight a couple of things in terms of what we saw, what got our attention, as well as matches we had the opportunity to view over these last couple of weeks, or best matches or takeaway over these last 2 weeks. Excuse me. And then we'll wrap up with our Region 1 preview, where we'll look at some of the top teams to look out for in certain districts in 4A through 6A in Region 1, both girls and boys. So But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and bring in our new, as you know, Rafa, our podcast team continues to grow, and it's made up of great contributors across different parts of the region here in South Texas, as well as across the state. And I am proud to introduce our newest member of our podcast team, who's going to be a special contributor for the 50/50 podcast. He brings a wealth of knowledge going back about 20, 25 years. Not that I mean to date him, right? But going back about 20 to 25 years in the state of Texas, really, with a really big focus both in South Texas and North Texas. He is Mr. Steve Sanchez. Steve, how are you, buddy?
Hey, doing good, Hector. I appreciate you having me join your team and being alongside Rafa as well. And it's a good little combination here with the three of us here. So I really look forward to being on the show a little bit more often. This is my second time on the show. I think that was on Easter last year, and that was really fun. A lot of fun. That was kind of the end of the 2022 UIL season, and so but 2023 is starting hot already with Texas soccer. But no, thank you very much for having me join the team, and I look forward to working with both you guys.
Awesome. Glad to have you. And apparently you didn't get the memo, right? Rafa didn't remind you that as a part of this team, you are not allowed to be an Arsenal fan. So we'll rediscuss. We'll hash that out later. But I appreciate you being a brave man, or maybe you just lost a bet. I don't know, Rafa. Is there any insider information there? Did he just lose a bet, maybe?
Well, me and Steve go back because we coached together with the
Right.
Texans when I first moved out here. So. He's been a great friend, and he's very knowledgeable, so I'm glad that he's part of it. Yeah, maybe he needs to add a little – I don't know. I'm not the big fan of the EPL, so I'm not going to crucify him too much with the Arsenal stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe he needs to add a little Real Madrid stuff in the back, so that'd be fun. Or even some SAFC stuff, even though we took one in the chin yesterday. So
I was hoping you would not give a Real reference on today's show, because I have it. I DVR'd it, but I don't know if I want to watch it. I saw the final result.
We got to give them one. We feel sorry for them. We just got to give them a trophy because they're going to get eliminated.
To keep it Yeah. To keep it a rivalry, right? We got to let them win every now and then. Is that how it goes? Yeah. So, speaking of that, and obviously kind of segueing here to Super League talk. Earlier today, got to see episode 1 of The War for Football on Apple TV. Right. I think it's a 4-part series. Right. And absolutely phenomenal. It was a lot of it, bits and pieces you kind of already know, but it's exceptionally well done, well produced. And it just the way it kind of ends right at the end of episode 1, no spoiler alerts, just simply, it's on Apple TV. If you have it, got to watch it. It is definitely worth the watch. So I know what I'll be doing over the course of this week. So definitely 2 thumbs up on the War for Football on Apple TV. So Steve, welcome. Excited to have you here. Appreciate you being here and also ready to work with us. It's a special year, just as you said. 2023 has already been kind of rocking and rolling. A couple of weeks in. I mean, we had tons and tons and tons of games over these last 2 weekends, particularly this past weekend. Which we're going to get to, and we're going to start off. So there's 3 key tournaments that we are going to talk about. Rafa, why don't you go ahead and tell us just briefly those 3 that we'll be talking about while I bring up our graphic.
Yeah, the key ones that we have is the Austin Lakes Elite Showcase here. We're near our backyard. We also have the I-10 Shootout, which is one of the biggest tournaments for girls soccer in the state, which it's run really well. So kudos to them. And then also the kind of the traditional one that a lot of the elite teams do come is the Governor's Cup in Georgetown. Usually around the second week. So those are the kind of, I'm saying there are other tournaments on here, but those are kind of the 3 main ones for week 2 that a lot of our teams, that are on our power rankings, go compete every year.
Yeah, well said. And I am reattempting to open it up correctly here as as we speak. But yeah, so we are going to start off with the I-10 shootout and courtesy. So these final overall results, obviously. So first things first, in terms of the marketing piece, the informational piece, the accessibility to information, and just in terms of the coverage, the I-10 shootout kind of, you can say, stands alone, right? Very unique setup. It's a women's soccer tournament, but it's set up across 8 schools in the Katy ISD district, and they're broken down into, as you see on your screen, 8 different brackets, right? So and it's just phenomenal. And then obviously in terms of they were even live streamed as well. The finals were live streamed along with a recap, and we will post that. We will follow that up and retweet that with again, you can go to the I-10 shootout. You can follow them on their Twitter page as well as on Instagram, and they also have a dedicated website to this. So great coverage, and you can also find their coverage on YouTube. So great stuff there. So as we look at this, guys, what kind of, so we see here eight brackets, right? And we're going to go through these kind of briefly. What kind of stands out? What gets your attention initially?
I think the one that stands out to me is Lumberton, the Lumberton girls, because they had a good season last year. They had a good run, and it shows that I think they're ready to make another run for 4A girls there in region 3.
Yeah, I think for me, particularly being on the private school side, right? There's St. Agnes jumps out at me right away. Not shocked whatsoever, because that is a powerhouse of a Division I 6A program in TAPS, but they're playing amongst the big boys, big girls, I should say here in this case, right? And they emerged victorious as one of the 8 champions. So that initially got my attention, along with Lumberton as well. But very much kudos to St. Agnes. Steve?
Yes, right there with you with St. Agnes. They've got, I believe they started that tournament off with Cypress Lakes, and which, the Cypress teams are usually, pretty competitive. And I know that was the Katy Tiger bracket. I'm not sure who St. Agnes played in the final, but I know Katy was on the top part of that bracket, and St. Agnes.
It was Katy. It was Katy High School. Katy High School.
It was Katy.
Yeah, it was
so
Katy.
For them to, beat Katy on, pretty much probably their home field. Well done by St. Agnes. Let's see. I'm still looking around here. Lumberton as well, and Taylor. Taylor is Katy Taylor won their own bracket, but that's a staple as far as being at state pretty consistently for the women's side coming out of Region 3. So not too surprised to see them, but it looks like they're already on the right track to making a run at district, and then possibly state bound later on down the road as well. So yeah, they're always in the mix with coming into March and April. Katy Taylor's usually a solid team there. But yeah, no, good results and great stuff from all these teams. Seven Lakes is another one that comes out of that Katy ISD, and same thing with them. There could be a preview of what's to come in that district once we get. Today we're be talking more about Region 1, but Region 3 down the road, we might bring this back up to talk about Region 3, and might be talking about Katy Taylor and Seven Lakes as well.
Absolutely. Rafa, any other thoughts on this? Anything else that maybe aside from Lumberton that maybe gets your attention, or just over the weekend, the tournament play?
Well, there was Seven Lakes. They had a big win that Friday contest. They knocked off Frisco Wakeland. That's a big win for them, knocking off the defending 5A state champs, and that win's gonna go a long way for them. I think they're probably gonna be the favorite, besides with Taylor, to win that district. But also they kind of catapults them to win that Region 3. If you can beat a high caliber team like Frisco Wakeland, Bushra Wakeland has beaten some 6A teams too, but to have a
Right.
notch on, a win on their belt for that, it's a good confidence booster for those girls. And I think that they're going to have that target on their back as far as, winning that region now for Region 3. So, like I said, keeping an eye on Seven Lakes here. I think they've taken that next step. Being a state caliber team now, can they match it up making it to the state playoffs? I mean, that's for the state tournament.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
right.
Because of the fact that, like Rafa said, of course, we know Frisco Wakeland on the boys' side, right? But this being the girls' side, they've won Region 2 and 5A 3 out of the last 4 years. And out of those 4, 2 times they've won state. So, for Seven Lakes, like Rafa mentioned, to, win that game and, take that side of that bracket, that Spartan bracket. Yeah, that's big stuff right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And and again, this is a lot of, it can't be said, it can't be stressed enough. This is a lot of just moving parts in terms of the logistics, how they play this out, this tournament as well. And I know, we had Brandon Rich on here, or in our last episode, the operations coordinator for this tournament, sits on the board as well, and gave us a little bit of a breakdown in terms of just the volunteers, the sponsors, the fact that they're playing this at 8 different locations as well. So pretty phenomenal stuff. But overall, kudos to that entire staff, volunteers, the board there at the I-10 Shootout in particular, the marketing piece, the social media piece, the accessibility to information on this has really made it stand out as an exceptional tournament. A very much what's kind of ascending as a premier level tournament. I can only see some of the schools that they're going to be attracting in the future, because this is an exceptional tournament. So
yeah, there's something like 64 teams or something like that and it's just
correct.
girls, right?
And that's just varsity. That's just varsity. They have this going on for JV as well. Yeah,
That's right.
Excuse me. So yeah. So congratulations to all participants in the I-10 Shootout. Kudos to the winners, the bracket winners and champions as well. But in particular, obviously, the big winners is just right.
Scene. They got some good teams. I think they're coming here knowing that, hey, in order for us to take that next step, we got to see how we compete against some of these elite teams. So it's good for them, especially representative for district. We even had an El Paso team, East Lake. They came out, to showcase their team, to see how they matched up to, some of the teams that we had on this past showcase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Was there any, when you look at it, any key matches in this one that stood out to you, that got your attention maybe the most?
I think the one I was looking forward to was the Dripping Springs and Lee game, because that's going to be an intriguing matchup. I mean, that's a potential playoff game, depending on where the brackets are. So that's a possibility. Right. We could see them. Also, another one was Lake Travis, going up against Brandeis. Brandeis kind of is like the upstart team here in San Antonio that's kind of probably going to do some damage this year. But also Brandeis had also another key game against Rockwall Heath, who was a runner-up not too long ago. And then there's other ones, like I mentioned, like I said, East Lake, they're going against a team from, Irvin MacArthur, Ridge Point, against the Houston Dallas matchups. South Lake Carroll's boys came here. So there was a lot of great games that, we're, kind of looking forward to. But those are some of the key ones that looking at the schedules, this is going to be a top-notch game coming in.
Right. I think what got my attention was just the significant was that result in that Lee Dripping Springs match, right? It's just, you couple that with San Antonio Lee's results from last weekend. It's like that's the question, right? They're starting to look like the Lee of recent memory, right? So are they? That's gonna, as they start segueing into a big district matchup, which we'll talk to a little bit more later this week. are they back? Right? Are they back? So that's going to elude some of those questions as well, which we'll find out a little bit more this later this week in a pivotal district matchup. So, Steve, thoughts on the Austin Lakes Elite Showcase?
Yeah, Rafa kind of mentioned it a little bit about Brandeis, being that upstart team here in San Antonio. So they're in that, although they're Northside ISD, they do play in the Northeast District with Reagan and Lee. So Rafa and I, we ran into each other at a couple games last week, and discussed. Yeah, it's going to be a tough little race between Lee, Reagan, and now you throw Brandeis in there. The way that they're playing and that result that Rafa mentioned about over Rockwall Heath 5-0. That's a pretty good result. And then to come back, and I think they tied
Lake Travis.
Lake Travis 1-1. And I know I think they lost their last game. Was it 2-0 to Capel? Right?
Yeah.
I think. And,
yes.
Capel's,
you're talking about Brandeis. You're talking about Brandeis, correct?
Yeah. So, Capel's, pretty well known to, be, up at state for, UIL state and stuff. So, but for Brandeis to be putting results together like that, Lee, Reagan, watch out for Brandeis, because they're coming for district, and I haven't seen them yet, but being here in San Antonio as well, that's definitely a team that I'm going to be on the lookout for to try to get out and watch a game or two. But that's pretty much what kind of stuck out to me as far as the Austin Lakes tournament. I think I had mentioned that I wasn't able to see too many results this weekend. I had some other things going on, but that was pretty impressive for me to see that. So let me ask you a question. For this Austin Lakes, do they actually have a champion, or is it basically like it's a showcase, right?
Showcase format.
Okay. Showcase format, correct.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that 5-0 win over Dripping Springs by Lee, that's a statement, and that's kind of like a warning to the other teams in their district. Like, we're back. I think they fixed from what happened last year. I know they had some injuries last year, and they had some issues with goalkeeping. I think they fixed that, and now those pieces are starting to come together. And knowing Coach Rogers, like I said, they were going to bounce back, after a disappointing season last year.
Right.
That I had a feeling they'd be in contention, to challenge Reagan. And it just, what they've done now shows that, we're back. We're going to take care of some business, and, we're going to hopefully get back to, to Georgetown this coming year. But like I said, I think Brandeis has a say about that, which we'll talk about in a bit. But then also don't count out Reagan. Reagan's still got a great team too.
Oh yeah.
It's a 3-horse race for that district. So it's
and
just going to come down to who's gonna take that next step to really take a stranglehold of that district.
Right. And
Lee, what I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that Lee, Rafa talking about Lee's goalkeeper situation. I saw Lee play last weekend, right, against Cedar Park in the final of the Alamo Heights tournament here in San Antonio, and Lee was strong. So Lee came out fighting. They put 2 on the board. Halftime it was 2-0, and Cedar Park came out strong, very physical in the second half, and kind of reminded me a little bit more of the way Reagan plays. A little bit more physical, high pressure. And Lee struggled with that a little bit and kind of moved some of their stronger players, from what I saw, a little bit more defensively. Cedar Park wound up scoring on a corner kick, 2-1. And then after that, Lee did what Lee does, and they played their beautiful game. And they got back on track, and they wound up putting one back in, ended 3-1. So, looked a little suspect with the against the physicalness, but that being said, they did, kind of have that switch, turned it back on, and took care of business. Got some very phenomenal players on their team. They've got a really good from what looked like attacking midfielder and then a winger as well. That kind of like, to me, that's the meat and potatoes of their team. But going back to their goalkeeper situation, their goalkeeper just got signed here for, I believe, Texas A&M, San Antonio, and so and he looked very strong, and they played out of the back as well. Back to him, and he was very good, confident on what he was doing with the ball. So I think they've got their goalkeeper situation. Back line, little suspect, but it's early in the season. You gotta
Correct.
take that into consideration. There's still chemistry that needs to be built, and that's what district is for. So that's what these tournaments are for. And then going into district, come March, I think there'll be a lot more chemistry back there. So
right.
The one result from this one was they didn't score a goal on the
correct.
Correct. And that's probably now, like you mentioned, Steve, I guess that chemistry is now starting to kind of fall in place.
Right. We talk about some of these teams in this showcase, right? The Austin Lakes Elite Showcase. One of the things, one of the things that kind of quietly stood out to me a little bit was the results that Lake Travis was getting during this showcase, and what was largely perceived where Coach Bammel was resting a lot of starters, right? I don't know if you saw that or not, but that was largely reported on social media. So, and they were still taking care of business, right? So that was kind of a little bit of, okay. So that's kind of starting to answer some of the depth questions as well, in terms of them making a run at defending their state title in Region 4, because as we know, it's going to be some of the usual suspects, right? Come late March, early April in terms of Region 4. So more to come on that as well. But so let's go ahead and let's talk about it. So we were talking about Brandeis and a pivotal matchup coming up. San Antonio Brandeis in a pivotal matchup with San Antonio Lee, a 28-6A matchup. And check me on this, Rafa. That is Wednesday at 7 p.m. at Blossom Athletic Center, correct?
No, I think it's 5 p.m. on Tuesday.
Is it a 5 p.m.?
Yeah, it's a 5 p.m. Tuesday at Blossom West.
I meant Tuesday. I don't know where I got Wednesday from. I meant Tuesday. Good check.
Well, Wednesday, there's another day.
Tuesday, 5 p.m. So, and go ahead, tell us about that one, Steve.
So Wednesday, I believe it's on the girls' side. Was it Taft and Brennan?
Yeah.
On the girls' side.
Yeah, no, the bigger one will be on Friday on the north side. Yeah, you're getting ahead of me a little bit here, but that's Friday. Taft and O'Connor. That will be at north side Friday, 5 p.m. But yeah, multiple big matchups. But yeah, so essentially in 29-6A, right? Since you brought it up, Steve, 29-6A, you have Taft, O'Connor, and Brennan, which are kind of really largely considered on the women's soccer side to be the front runners in 29-6A. They will all have played each other within the first 10 days of district play, which is very interesting. Very interesting. So, but thoughts as we come back to Lee and Brandeis. That's tomorrow, 5 p.m. I have no idea where I got Wednesday, 7 p.m. from, so that's why I said to check me. Thank you for that. Thoughts on this matchup? That's a very early, big matchup.
I think this is going to be. I know for Lee, you got to hold ground and win at home. I think Brandeis. Some of the confidence that they received from this weekend is try to steal some points, probably even steal the win. So to get, because it's going to come down to the last few games, kind of like the situation with Brennan, Taft, and O'Connor girls last year. It came down to with them playing each other towards the end. This is going to be a key game. So if Lee really wants to put their stamp on here to get into the district title race, they got to win this game. And because, like I said, this will have that showdown with Reagan later down on the line. Brandeis, like I said, is the same situation. They want to contend. They got to steal one from here, or at least steal some points, knowing that way they can take care of business when they face them again at home, whether at Ferris or at Gus.
Thoughts on that, Steve, on that big matchup tomorrow?
Yeah, so this is a big district. So they start their district early because there's so many teams in this district. So we've got 2 months of district play. Beginning. beginning tomorrow. No, it actually started
Beginning
last week.
today. It started, I think today is actually, wasn't it? There was a Madison.
last week.
No, it actually started
Madison
last week on the 10th.
Yeah, because I was at the Reagan Clark game for the
Oh,
boys,
yeah, never mind. Yeah.
So
and that game, Reagan really struggled with Clark, and that was a little eye opener there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but these two powerhouses in Region 4 to be starting off district. I mean, you want to, get some points, and I know Lee already got points. Brandeis already got points last week with their opening match. So yeah, this is going to kind of see who's, going to kind of, take that first step forward as far as winning district early in mid-January. I think district runs all the way to the middle of March. But yeah, in mid-January, you're going to have a front runner here. Of course, there could be a draw or, tie. So it kind of, but if I could, this is the game I would be at. I got a coach tomorrow, but unfortunately, so this is a great opportunity for fans around San Antonio. You want to, if your son or daughter doesn't have soccer practice, or, you want to take them to the game, it's going to be over at Blossom, 5 p.m. This is a great match for them to go check out. And I believe there's other games around there as well. So I think that if the boys are playing at 5, then the girls play at 7 p.m. Correct?
I think they swap. Yeah.
They swap out, and so.
So a big shout out. Go ahead, Rafa. Go ahead.
Like I said, the other key game. So I was looking at their schedule is when Reagan faces Lee, and that's going to be on a 5 p.m. game too as well on the 24th of January.
So that's
going to be Homelander.
Yeah, that's the very next Tuesday. That's another great match. Great match to go see as well. So
so a shout out really quick before I forget, because if not, I know they mentioned it to me. Big shout out. They're on Play for San Antonio Brandeis on their men's team, both Boston Babiarts and Eden Rodriguez 2024s that are also College Promoter USA athletes. So college coaches, you need to be checking these guys out. Okay, they are some studs. They are some players. So big shout out to our College Promoter USA athletes in Boston Babiarts and Eden Rodriguez. And one final talk before we move on to the Governor's Cup. Thoughts on that big matchup between Taft and O'Connor women's soccer on Friday, 5 p.m. Rafa?
This is the one game that I know O'Connor's looking for a little payback from last year, because the Taft loss kind of cost them the district title last year. So, but one thing with Taft, they've been tearing it up. They went down there in the Valley. They took care of business. They got a good squad back. I think O'Connor did have a little slip up in the Valley, dude. They did lose to Harlingen, but O'Connor did bounce back this weekend. They manhandled Bernie, who was a state semifinalist. Right. They did well in that Southwest ISD showcase. So this is a really intriguing matchup. I'm gonna give the edge a little bit to Taft, because, like I said, they've just been on a roll. But like I said, this is gonna be a close game. I don't see like a higher scoring game. I see it close to like a 1-0, 2-1 game. Because it's like a heavyweight fight. They're gonna be tactic punch for punch on this one. But I think Taft is gonna have the edge on this first round.
Yeah, these are two schools that know each other exceptionally well. I think the big difference here is going to be, so O'Connor, they lost a lot in graduation, right? And Taft kept a lot during graduation, and they have an exceptional squad that's back, right? We talked about Madison Harris, their goalkeeper, exceptional goalkeeper as well, who was an all area as a freshman, so that's saying something. Excuse me. And so yeah, Taft is largely regarded by many as the front runner here, right? With Brennan and O'Connor closely nearby. Question's going to be, but O'Connor they have young talent, right? That entered the mix here. So the question's going to be, and with the new coach, is that the difference, right? That a first year coach, how quickly can they adjust to their new coach? And how quickly can they get kind of firing on all cylinders with a very young squad versus a Taft squad that knows each other very well, and they're kind of seasoned and they're ready for this is their year. So that is going to be an interesting dynamic there. And of course, they got to play each other twice. And then in the middle of all of that is Brennan too, as Steve alluded to earlier, right? So thoughts on that, Steve?
So, yeah, you got to also remember they played each other 3 times last year because O'Connor knocked out Taft, and so Taft kind of, I guess, what did they tie towards the end of district, and that wound up allowing Brennan to win district. Well, then they wound up facing each other, I believe, the third round of the playoffs last year, and O'Connor got their payback. I think they 3-1 over Taft. So,
yeah, but these are very different dynamics from a year ago, though. That's the difference, though. Is like this is a seasoned Taft now that is like of age, right? Where the roles are a bit reversed. The roles are essentially reversed this year.
Taft had a lot of freshmen, sophomore, juniors on that team last year that are now, a grade above and have that experience. And I kind of put them as I think they're kind of the front runner, especially with the goalkeeper that they have, Mads. And I've coached. So she plays on the same club that I coach at, and we've scrimmaged them plenty of times. The boys that I coach, and we may have put 1 goal on her. Of course, that's kind of her back line was pretty solid with on Coach Eddie's team. As well, but yeah, no, she's a tough goalkeeper to crack, and not only that, when the ball is up the field, you can hear her, telling her teammates, push up, let's go right, let's go left, and just keeping everyone on her team organized. So she's kind of a gem to watch, and only being a sophomore, she's just getting better. But yeah, to me, Taft is the front runner for this district. But they got to prove it on the field, and it kind of starts, this week. I think they did not have a district opener last week, like the rest of their district counterparts. So, and they did not, I don't think they participated in any. Did they play any tournaments this weekend? I don't think
they did not. No. I think which might prove to actually be a smart decision.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
so
there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
And they were actually present at the game that Rafa and I were at on Thursday night, that South Lake Carroll Johnson game. They had a presence out there, so it may have been, hey, we want to kind of see Johnson, but we also want to see who this South Lake Carroll team is, that won state last year. So, to me, that shows they're showing up to a game that, those 2 other teams aren't even in their district. They have higher aspirations of just their district play. So, to see them out there supporting local soccer and watching that, kind of shows a lot about their mentality and where their ideas are going towards as far as, trying to get to that next level. So, I like this Taft team, and I think that they're going to be, tough in that district.
Yeah.
Front runner to me.
So enough. We'll move on from that. Enough with the 28 and 29 6A talk. Governor's Cup. Thoughts on the Governor's Cup, Steve and Rafa, as you look back on it from last week's results. What stands out to you?
I think the thing was Cedar Park winning it. I think they kind of bounced back from that loss with Lee. I think they're going to be a team. I think from team to contend with, and come district play, but also in the playoffs too. Because I know now they're in region 3. You got they're going to have some tough way to get in, but I think don't be surprised if they get to the regional tournament for Region 3 later on in March. So, like I said, I think they have a good shot.
Yeah. I have to keep reminding myself when I look at the district, even though I've looked at it already, is that they're part of that reshuffling in the Austin area, right? That's the Region 3 versus Region 4 shuffle. So, Steve, thoughts?
So this one, Hector, I'll be honest with you, I didn't get to dive into Governor's Cup too much. I didn't see hardly any results, like I mentioned earlier. Had some busy weekend with some other things going on. So I apologize. I don't really have too much to say about Governor's Cup. So
All good. All
I'd
good.
have to
Just
make a
wanted to give
correction.
you the floor.
Cedar Park
Go
is
ahead.
in Region 4. Just looking back,
They are
Cedar
in
Park
Region
is in Region 4. They're District 25. So,
Are they?
but they, like I said, they're gonna have to compete against like Roos and Liberty Hill.
Leandria.
So they'll be, like I said, they'll be one of the favorites going into Region 4.
So who am I thinking of then? Who am I thinking of then that is Region 3 in that area? Because I thought it was them.
Probably Georgetown. The Georgetown schools.
It must be.
Georgetown and Eastview.
It must be. It must be. So because that's what I kept flopping them. So to the point where, because with so many changes, is I have to, like, I don't have the districts memorized anymore. It's like I have to go and look at them, right? So, and then plus the 5As and 6As, the changes there as well. So, all right, good deal. So again, I think what got a lot of people's attention was the that goal that was floating around on Twitter. Did you see that goal by Cedar Park versus Georgetown? Did you see that bicycle kick? I don't know if you all had the chance to see that. It was a phenomenal goal.
No,
phenomenal goal. That one was definitely floating around there as potential goal of the season so far nominee. So yeah, so interesting matchup there as well. So more to come. And then of course, so the way the Governor's Cup, that's an interesting setup because both the men's and women's, they have them both in their back-to-back weeks, right? So the women's matchups, those were just sent out. I know those were just distributed on social media earlier today. So if you haven't had a chance yet to go ahead to look at those, go ahead and look those up. We retweeted those as well. So go ahead and check them out. All right. So we're going to go ahead and move on. Matches. So far, this next piece, what we wanted to talk about is maybe some of the best matches that you've come across, that you've seen results on, or maybe some matches that you've had a chance to see directly and cover so far. We're just going to kind of no set criteria, just kind of talking about either or both.
Sure, I'll go ahead and start it off. So I've seen 2 matches thus far, 2023. The first one, like I mentioned earlier, was Alamo Heights final, which was Lee and Cedar Park. And, Lee, beautiful. I mean, historically, they always play beautiful soccer. Well, nothing's changed so far this year. They've got some firepower on offense, definitely. Like I mentioned earlier, their defense a little bit suspect, but not getting scored on this weekend kind of shows that chemistry is probably developing. And talking about Cedar Park, they've got a good team as well, and I believe they're classification 5A.
5A.
Correct.
For Region 4.
Yeah,
So-
it was the Region 3, Region 4 mix up that we were trying to get right. Yeah.
So could be a front runner for 5A as well, to be challenge some of the in Region 4. So to get out of that region, but yeah, and then the other game that Rafa and I saw was we saw another one. I take that back. I've seen 3. So we've seen the Reagan, was it the
Reagan Clark game?
Reagan Clark game, and so far, or throughout the match, Reagan pretty much just dominated. That being said, I got to give big hand clap to the Clark goalkeeper. My goodness, she made some outstanding saves. That night, I believe it was last Tuesday. So good stuff there. But yeah, Reagan just kept that high pressure. Couldn't really finish. I think it would end up 1-0.
No, 1-0.
1-0. I mean, they must have had like 20 something shots, not necessarily on goal, but throughout the match. And then the other match that we saw was Thursday night over at Comalander. Rafa and I saw the defending 6A girls champions, the South Lake Carroll Dragons, and that's wow. So they played against Johnson, who's a very, very good team down here in 2-0, in San Antonio, and they made Johnson look, unfortunately, like a JV team or something.
A
That
great
being said,
experience for Johnson, though, right? So the earlier they
absolutely.
can see
I
something
think they
like
were
that,
shorthanded
But
too.
they were shorthanded too, because
Yeah.
Rafa and I noticed right away, you see 20 something girls for South Lake warming up, and then you see like 14 or 15 for Johnson. So they may have had some girls out. But that being said, South Lake Carroll, their foot was on the gas pedal from the very get-go. And that number 4 nailed a 25-yarder from outside the box, and then it just went on from there. They've got a
final in that one was what? Was it
7-0.
7-0.
7-0. Yeah. So
Yeah, I think it was 4-0 at halftime, and then they put 3 in the second half. But yeah, the standout for the game was the number 10 player for South Lake Carroll, who is, I believe, a sophomore and already committed to North Carolina. So that's pretty cool. Wanted to go see her play.
Yeah,
But
Miss
they've
Kennedy
got
Fuller. Miss Kennedy Fuller. She is now actually reclassified as essentially a 2024. So yeah, but she's committed to North Carolina. A member, won the Golden Ball at the recent CONCACAF, the U.S. Youth National. She's a member of the U.S. Youth National Team, women's team, and also won the Golden Ball at the recent CONCACAF tournament that was played this past, I believe it was this past summer. So yeah, she's definitely going places, and little sister is right behind her as a freshman, as a 2026 in Camden. So that squad is absolutely loaded. I know Rafa will get into it a little bit more, but I know, excuse me, Rafa and I had a conversation about it, and when we had our champions review. Our champions review segment in our last episode of Inside Texas High School Soccer, they were the one that was my lock of all the champions that were most likely to repeat. They were the ones that were my lock for so many reasons, because what they were able to do last year with a heavy freshman led group, or I shouldn't say freshman led group, but a freshman supported group. It just speaks volumes in terms of their depth as well, right? So because they essentially have what's almost the equivalent of a second 11 that could start for many programs across the state as well. So, Rafa, thoughts?
Yeah, that game Thursday night, because I was looking forward to see what they had, and they reminded me a lot of a team that I saw a few years ago. Kind of the same caliber as far as technical play, talent, cohesiveness. It was that Brownsville Rivera team that won state, that went undefeated. They went 35-0. That's probably one of the best boys teams I see. But as far as technical play, these girls were just as good as them. And I just, like you mentioned, they're a lock for you for the win in the 6A title. I think for me, I think they're going to be a lock. There may be some challenges. There's some teams in North Texas may have to say, like Prosper, or Flower Mound, or even Marcus, even Capel. I mean, they're just not gonna roll over, and that's maybe like we talked about. Can they stay focused? Winning games 8-9-0. Sometimes you do get, that can come back and bite you in the butt if you're in the tight game and so forth. But I think the coaches do a good job kind of keeping them focused. I know we were hearing them. They were kind of staying active, cheering on their teammates, doing some little chants and stuff. But that, I guess, to keep it, to keep them into the game,
engaged and everything. Yeah.
Keep them good.
To me, every team that I've seen play thus far, out of the 6 teams that I've seen, other than South Lake Carroll, the chemistry is not there yet. We're early in the season. I know tryouts and all of that came up in December, and their coaches are trying to get that chemistry. That being said, South Lake Carroll, they're firing on all cylinders. The movement without the ball was just phenomenal. I mean, to say the least. It's like they are on that same wavelength. They knew where everyone was going to be. That being said, my brother came into town. He was watching the second half with me, and I told him, watch, when Johnson gets the ball, they don't even possess the ball for 5 to 8 seconds. Once they gain possession, and Rafa filmed the game as well. He streamed it. You know, you can go back and see the way that South Lake Carroll swarms you on defense as well. So it the transition of the game going from, you lose possession, but they gain possession back immediately and they keep the possession. If they make a mistake, a bad pass here or there, they work as a team to get the ball. So it's not just their firepower on offense. They're working hard defensively to, get that ball back. And once they do, it's going to be extremely difficult to beat that team, especially the way that they're playing this early in the season. If anything, they're just going to get stronger and better. And like Hector talked about it, their depth as well. You get an injury here or there. Well, you got someone else to fill in that gap.
Right.
Well, I say this on them, they're still a young team, even though they have chemistry. If they run into an experienced team with a lot of seniors, that could be a difference there as far as the result.
Yeah, and also keep in mind they got to go through Region 1 too, right?
Yeah, we'll get into Region 1 later.
But Rafa and I have talked about, but that Region 1, it's no gimme. It's no, even for a team as talented as South Lake Carroll, right? And they could very well be a historical team, a generational team, possibly, right? But right now, and this strikes me as the type of unit, type of squad that has the aspirations to be great like that. But yeah, Rafa's absolutely right. They're still young. They're still very young.
Yeah, and then like I said, as far as I did see some other games this week. Like me and Steve saw the Clark Reagan game. I saw the boys game before he came to watch the girls game. I was a little concerned about the Reagan boys because they did not play to par. I've seen them accustomed to. Kudos to Clark, who's our new coach at Clark. He's done a great job really lifting that team to make it more competitive. They had, they fought for every ball and so forth. They just gave up a bad PK, and that was the end result for them. But, kudos to them. Keep an eye on them. I think they might be bouncing back. They could surprise a couple teams here and there. A wild game I went to see on Saturday was at that Southwest ISD showcase. I saw a 4A Davenport boys team versus 5A Edison. And Davenport, great talent, great touch on the ball. They had some great goals in the first half. Then they took a 3-0 lead just into the second half. And then all of a sudden they gave up a PK, and that's when everything kind of went wrong for them. And, Edison cashed in, and Edison kept on putting that gave them confidence. They started pressing and stealing balls and so forth. They got that second, and they finally got the equalizer. And then the winning goal was off of a cross, and the guy had to kind of lean back a little bit, kind of like that Benzema goal scored from Modric. Kind of had to lean back and hit it, and kind of redirect it to the other side, and that's how he was able to nail that winning goal. And Davenport was just in shock that they had given up that lead, but kudos to the Edison boys on a comeback win.
So the final on that was it 4-3 or 3-2?
4-3.
What was that?
4-3.
4-3. Yeah. So, but do keep an eye on as far as Davenport. I think they'll bounce back. Keep an eye on them. I think they're still a playoff team for 4A in their district. I know they're in a tough one with the defending state champs, Bernie High, and also Wimberley.
Tough district. Tough.
Yeah, it's a tough district, but I think they'll bounce back, and I think you'll see them in the playoffs, and I think they can make a run of this coming year. But Edison, like I said, they're. They have some good talent. They just have to kind of get a piece a little bit together and not fall behind, because they do have Alamo Heights in their district. So they're probably going to be in contention to one of those three remaining playoff spots for this year.
Yeah. A team of note, I think that both Rafa and I got to see the week before last. It was the Smithson Valley Ranger Classic, right? You had New Braunfels Canyon on the women's soccer side versus El Paso Franklin. So a 5A with a new coach and against a 6A Region 1 power, right? And Canyon emerged victorious 1-0, but I think it was also how that game played out, right? Yes, clearly we don't entirely know if Canyon was at 100%, but we know Franklin wasn't. They were missing a couple of players, but that said, how the game played out was very interesting from the standpoint of it was an eye opener. Not only that for that single result with Canyon, but they went what 3-0 in in that tournament. So this kind of was a little bit of an eye opener for some people because people didn't really know what to expect from Canyon, but it's like, hey, they are going to have a say in that district this year. So I think I know Rafa got to see it as well, and we talked about that. And what was probably my I don't know, I guess my best match that I think I was around. I didn't actually get to see this because I was right down the road. Was in the Wimberley Lady Texans Showcase this past weekend was Wimberley and Alamo Heights. Alamo Heights jumped all over them. We're up 2-0 at the half, 2-0 into the second half, and Wimberley came storming back. A very dramatic 2-2 draw, but I think it was again a solid, Region 4 4A versus a very strong Region 4 5A. But by all accounts, all the stories that I got, I was with my team, so I didn't get a chance to watch that match, to cover that match. But that was kind of really the talk of that showcase. That match was the talk of that showcase. So Wimberley, in new coach Eric Nichols, Wimberley looks like they're going to be just further making that district incredibly strong. Steve, any thoughts?
No, just Alamo Heights is in that new district now with the SAISD team. So, I think they're kind of salivating as far as the girls are concerned. Well, probably the boys as well, to kind of show their strength in that district. With all the realignment, that's where they wound up ending up with Jefferson, Edison, the Burbank, Brackenridge, and actually MacArthur from Northeast as well is in that district as well. So, but yeah.
So do you think that might be a little curse for them being in a not a very strong district? Well, for the girls' side, not being on a real strong district. I think the boys' side will be competitive, but I think the girls' side is they're just on a class on their own. Do you think that might come back to bite them in the butt in the playoffs?
I do in the second or third round. Because so they might be one of these where they've got this really nice record, right? Real pristine record of, going into March and tournament play. But, who did they really face? And I think on Rafa's other podcast as well, it's kind of like he always mentions, go out there and, get those games in. They can't help it though. They can't help who they're realigned into the district with. That's not their fault. But for the girls, it could be something to where they, kind of have not too much competition. But maybe I think some teams kind of have like a scrimmage, before playoffs with another team. So maybe try to get something going with a 6A team or something to kind of get them rolling. Going into playoffs, but yeah, you're right, Rafa, in regards to this could potentially be a curse in the fact that the teams that they are facing a little bit. It's not the was it Bernie Champions, Smithson Valley, Kerrville, Canyon, those types of games that were. Or teams, I should say, that give them a little bit of a challenge for district, but time will tell. Get your results.
There's something to be said, though. I think so. Alamo Heights has been here before, right? They've been in a district like this before. This isn't something new to them. And one of the things is longtime coach there, right? In Steve, Coach Sharp, is that he's going to be able to manage that well. I think it's like you said, it almost takes on the same kind of the same notion as South Lake Carroll a little bit, right? When you're that much of the favorite, can you keep your composure? Can you keep your focus? How do you just keep that focus to get through that grind of the district season when you're very much the favorite, and keep and stay humble, stay focused.
Yeah, and engaged, and that's getting your bench riled up and keep
Right.
them involved as well, and trying out new different tactics, this and that, and just to be able to prepare for those tough playoff teams that you're going to be facing. You may come across a team that's more defensive, and so you kind of work on that game and prepare that way, or a team that high pressure and likes to attack. So going into that district match, hey, let's kind of focus on this. So different challenges along the course of the season, and you're right, the coach does a good job of that, and make sure that they stay focused and humbled as well.
Yeah, and to the point, and one can make the argument that also that I think if managed properly by the coach, right, this is also an opportunity when you're essentially, for lack of better words, the clear front runner in a district like that. This is an opportunity to get more minutes and development minutes for some of for your younger ones, right, and develop that experience which you're going to need in terms of depth come playoffs. So it's just a matter, I think, also a matter of how it's managed. So there's tons of blessings within this. It's just a matter of does the squad buy in, right? Is the coach managing it properly, and does the team buy in? So, all right. So that's going to do it for that. We're going to go ahead. We're going to segue over to our Region 1 preview for 4A through 6A. But before we do that, let me tell you about our good friends at Gipper. So as many of you know, we've been partnered with Gipper for 6 months now, and Gipper's doing some phenomenal work. Gipper's the way that schools, athletic departments, ADs, and coaches create world-class marketing content. Join over 2,500 coaches and ADs and use Gipper to create high-quality, visual branded graphics for your program. The best part, anyone can do it in seconds on any device without needing any design experience whatsoever. If you do have significant design experience, they are also designed for what they call the power user, right? So if you have good amount of experience with this, they just help you do even more great stuff with your graphics. So cannot recommend them enough. And as a 50/50 podcast listener, you can now save for going with an annual package with them. So listeners of the 50/50 podcast can receive 10% off any first-time Gipper purchase. Just simply visit gipper.com/partner/5050 to learn more. Again, that's gipper.com/partner/5050 for 10% off on annual package. All right, guys. So let's go ahead. Let's take a look at, I'm going to go ahead and bring up 4A here, Region 1. And we'll go ahead and take a look. All right, gentlemen. So we'll go ahead and we'll look at, if you can make it out here. We'll start Region 1, districts, which consists of District 1 through 8 here. Initial thoughts, guys.
I think for Region 1, as far as for the boys, you got to look at, San Eli. I think they're still the team to beat in Region 1. But now they have some teams to contend with, like El Paso Bowie, Irvin, even Austin. I think they may have a say. I think probably those are 4 favorites for District 1. District 2 is probably going to be led by, more than likely, Lubbock, Estacado. Snyder, they were a playoff team, but they did lose their head coach. He's now at Orley of the Lake, and so we'll see what type of the new coaching staff does for them. 3 in that Panhandle district. You got to look at Canyon Randall. They've been the kind of like the darlings of that district. And District 4, Wichita Falls. Like I said, Wichita Falls is perennial-wise, they've always make the playoffs every year and also contend in just state. 5, you got to look at Salado, Stephenville. 6, Alvarado. Waxahachie Life actually made the playoffs last year, so keep an eye on them. And then District 7, probably the second Fredor is going to be Diamond Hill Jarvis, and they've had success. They had success at that Sulphur Springs showcase, and they had some big wins this past weekend. So I think they're
those are your guys, man. Those are your guys.
Yeah.
Diamond Hill Jarvis.
Yeah. So keep an eye on them. I think they'll be a contention with St. Eli, and then look at District 8. maybe Bridgeport, Decatur. Like I said, those are probably the ones I see as far as coming out with the boys.
Yeah. And again, on these, what the plan is we don't have to necessarily, for our listeners here, is we're not going to go through district by district per se, but we're going to highlight maybe a couple of a couple of squads within maybe a couple of districts who we see as either significant powers, clear front runners, or maybe even dark horses and Cinderellas. Right? That's where we try to kind of put initial focus on as far as going through our top four. Top four for each district. Yeah, we kind of hold off on that, particularly because of we basically make up for it with a 6 or 7 hour long bracketology episode later in the year, right?
Catch in March.
Yeah. So give us a little bit of time on that. So, Steve, initial thoughts when you look at Region 1?
Yeah, for the boys region,
boys,
right? Okay. Yeah, no, Rafa kind of spoke about San Eli. Historically they're right there each and every year. You got your 2022 champion for Region 4 in the boys was Stephenville, down there in District District 5 with Salado. So they'll probably be in the mix come late March, as well as District 7 DHJ Diamond Hill Jarvis team as well. So I think that's kind of your front runners in regards to the boys for Region 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, an interesting result that I just saw over the weekend was they played in a tournament of all things, was El Paso Bowie and El Paso Austin, and Bowie actually lost to Austin in a tournament. They're up there in El Paso. So that was a result that I kind of found a little, one, the fact that they were playing in a tournament, but two, as district opponents, but two, the result as well. Okay. So, all right, now we will remain in Region 1, but now we will switch over to the women's side of the house. Rafa, thoughts?
Yeah, I guess the two clear favorites for the girls has got to be Stephenville and Salado. Those are probably your two top girls teams. They're probably gonna. I could see them being in the final, unless depending on the brackets. That's kind of probably be your Region 1 final, but also keep an eye out on also a couple other teams, like for example, like even the San Eli girls. I think they made a statement last year. They had a good run. They could probably contend. Same thing with Wichita Falls. Another team that you mentioned this weekend, they were talking to me, was Godley. You had a lot of good things to say about Godley, and they probably could end up surprising some teams in Region 1.
Don't be taking my thunder, man. Don't be stealing my thunder there. Yeah. So yeah, I saw them up close. I saw them up close and personal. And Godley, I can tell you right now, is going to surprise a lot of people this year. Coming from a squad that didn't win a single game last year in their first year of existence, again, they are a second-year program. They are going to surprise a lot of people this year.
And another dark horse might be San Angelo Lakeview. They actually won a tournament. I think it was the Alvarado tournament. And keep an eye on them. They may surprise some people. But like I said, overall, to me, the top two in the class of the region is going to be Salado and Stephenville.
Yeah, this one, District 1, will be interesting because San Eli kind of, they got over that hurdle last year in terms of the regional round, right? Is it like, could they go beyond the regional quarterfinal? And so now how do they follow that up this year? Are they, they don't quite have the same pedigree as obviously as their men's program, but they got over a big hurdle last year. How do they follow that up this year in this District 1? We've talked about how 1-4A on the men's side is a powerhouse of a district. On the girls' side, it's a large unknown with some of these schools that now are, because the district literally doubled in size. So it'll be interesting to see, one, how San Eli fares over the course of the season, and then how the rest of the district plays out.
Yeah, I think Region 1 it's up in the air now. It's on the girls' side for 4A. You got Midlothian Heritage that moved up to 5A. So, they're the two-time defending Region 1 champion. 3 out of the last 4 years. So, front runner kind of probably Stephenville. They historically they're right there in the mix. So, also Kennedale is another one that could possibly step up. They've won the region before in the probably about 7-8 years ago. So, also me being a barbecue guy, you've got the number 1 rated barbecue in Kennedale, Goldie's Barbecue. So
We got a barbecue bracket going here now. Okay.
Is Lockhart going to be in it?
I'm all for it. So I got to go visit Goldie's Barbecue in September of last year down in, or I should say up in Kennedale, out on the Fort Worth side of DFW. So, but yeah, they could definitely, throw a, they could be part of that Region 4, Region 1, tournament come May. But yeah,
granted, they play in a district with 2 of the powerhouses, but in District 5. But keep an eye on land passes. I'm just saying that now. Just keep an eye on them. Keep an eye on them. So, all right. So, good deal. Awesome. So that's going to do it for 4A, Class 4A. We're going to move on to Class 5A now here, and some of the schools that some people out there that aren't as hardcore as us are maybe a little bit more familiar with their names, right?
Oh,
not a knock on 4A whatsoever, because we're big proponents of 4A. What do you got, Steve?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say real quick, me being the stats nerd guru, whatever you want to call me. So Region 1, other than last year, the last 1, 2, 3, 6 champions came out of Region 1 for 4A girls. So, those teams being Midlothian Heritage, Stephenville, and Kennedale. So, Salina was kind of the one that broke that streak last year. So, historically, Region 1, 4A girls, when you're talking about that 4A girls side, historically, the champion is usually coming out of Region 1. So, that being said, it's kind of up in the air, but, that's some competitive some competitive schools down there, or up there, I should say.
Yeah. So as we move on to Class 5A, we'll start with the boys. Thoughts, Rafa? Region 1.
This is a pretty stacked region. You got some powerhouses on here. I mean, just look off the bat. You got El Paso, Del Valle, Bel Air, probably the top 2 teams for 5A. Maybe even El Paso, they've both been in the state title. Well, Del Valle's won the state title, except Bel Air's been in it. So you got to keep an eye on them. Other teams you've looked in the region, keep an eye on like Amarillo. Amarillo's been, like I said, they've made some runs. They've always gotten some good squads. I've faced them before. Even Tascosa moving up from 6A to 5A, that might be a help for them. Also to become more competitive. District 4, I think that's going to be wide open, but I'm going to give that edge to Abilene. But then you look at other places like District 5. It's also kind of like a little toss-up. Maybe, I think Wichita Fighters, traditionally, they've been one of the best teams in that region. So they're one of the favorites. District 6, that one has, that's kind of wide open, but also kind of keep on South Hills. I think they made a run last year, but then look at District 7. 7 is probably the besides maybe District 2 is probably the group of death, because you got Argyle, Heritage, Denton Ryan, Grapevine, North Richland Hills, Birdville. That's you could see a state one representing Region 1 out of that district, and then even District 8 too. You have Midlothian Heritage coming in for the boys side. They're going to contend. Even gonna Burleson Cleburne. There'll be another one too. So, but as far as overall, like I said, either District 7 or District 2s are probably going to be your 2 tough. Could see your representatives for Region 1 for boys.
Yeah, these the way Region 1 plays out at the 5A level, excuse me, especially as you look at these districts, right? they tend to, and some of it is by virtue of just the layout of the bracket, obviously, but I kind of look at these almost like, okay, District 1 through 4, who can survive? District 5 through 8, who can survive? Because these teams in the process across these districts, right, 1 through 4, they will just beat the crap out of each other, and the same thing for 5 through 8, right? So who can survive, I guess, is part of the question, right? And there's so many. You look at one through 4, and just it's such a grind, right? On top of that is 1 through 4. There are frequent flyers, right? They have those travel miles. They're well versed in terms of travel as well. They're just built. These programs are built different from the rest of the state because of how much they have to travel for come state playoffs as well. So that's something to keep in mind. And then when we look at 5 through 8, I zero in, just like Rafa said, I zero in on District 7. And as we mentioned in our last episode, right, I think it was during the RPI, the Rafa Power Index, is this the year for Colleyville Heritage, right, where they make that next big jump on the boys' side. So that's one. And then, of course, you got Argyle there, as well as Denton Ryan, and Grapevine, right, but particularly Colleyville Heritage. Is this the year they can make that next big run and maybe break through as a regional champion? Steve?
Yeah, no, y'all pretty much hit, all of the schools that I was going to be, speaking of. You've got, District 2 with Del Valle, Hanks, looking over, jumping over to District 5, you've got Aledo, Granbury, Wichita Falls, Ryder. Historically, they're at state every, not every year, but they're competing to get to state each and every year. So then you jump to District 7, and just big names there. Colleyville Heritage, Denton Ryan, Grapevine, the North Richland team. So this is this is a very strong region, but you did mention something as far as it for Region 1 and 5A. You've got the big travel come playoff time, where you're having to schedule games, in Midland and Lubbock and all of that. So bringing a Fort Worth team over, or bringing an El Paso team over. So but this is a geographically probably the biggest region of the 4, but
Right.
but they're some very strong teams as far as this region on the boys side historically.
This is our TripAdvisor region, is what we call them.
Yeah.
So all right,
Yeah,
we segue over.
The regional
ahead,
play will be in Wichita Falls, so that's where they'll meet when
Mhm.
they go to the regional tournament.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a big trap. That's a
Now-
big travel for El
Travel
Paso.
for both-
teams.
yeah, a lot.
It is.
I mean,
It is. But they're used to it. That's the thing. They're used to it. So,
Yeah.
all right, we segue over to the women's side of the house. Region 1, same thing. Districts 1 through 8. Initial thoughts, Steve?
So I kind of zone in on Grapevine, especially considering they've 2-time region champion for 5A girls. That's who I'm kind of leaning towards. Historically, you've also got Denton Ryan, who's there. Another historical team that's there is Colleyville Heritage. So that District 7 is probably going to be producing, a region finalist, if not maybe the 2 teams from that district going all the way to regional. So that's the district that I kind of key in on as far as Region 1 5A girls.
Yeah.
So looking at the other districts, you've got some solid girls teams as well, in 1 and 2, the El Paso teams. And then you've also got some in District 3 and 4. You do see come playoff time, a lot of the Amarillo, Abilene's, the Lubbock teams in there, making their way to, second and third round matches and stuff. So Yeah, no, there's another strong region as far as historically. They haven't had a state champion per se since let's see,
This has been the region on the girls' side that it's been tough. Region 1 and Region 4.
2014.
It's been hard for them to break through. Yeah.
Last time was Louisville Hebron back in 2014 that they produced a state champion. It's really been dominated by Region 2, which we'll get into another time. But yeah, no, they that being said, those the District 7 is probably what you're kind of like looking for as far as picking out some names. So those 4 teams that advance, look for all 4 possibly winning their first round matches, come playoff time.
Rafa?
Yeah, I think Region 7 is probably going to be the top of the class, but don't count out District 8. You got Golden Heritage, who made the final. Like I said, they've been a powerhouse in 4A, and I know they're leaving up to 5A, but they've beaten some good 5A teams. Same thing with their sister school, Midlothian. Keep an eye on them, and then also Burleson Centennial. They're in my power rankings. They're a team to keep an eye on. I know they like the Dallas Metroplex. I had a really, had kind of like an interest in that team. They said they were like one of those dark horse teams that they could surprise. So, but like I said, with District 7, like I said, it's probably going to come down to Argyle, Colville Heritage, Grapevine, and maybe Denton Ryan. It's going to be a dogfight for that. Wichita Falls Rider girls, they just as the boys, they're just as good too. They can make a deep run. The kind of going out more west to the El Paso and also the Panhandle. You see Amarillo. The Amarillo girls always have a good squad. I think they could surprise a couple teams. The one where we're kind of, I know you mentioned Coach last year, but Del Valle girls, I thought they were going to make maybe like a little run, but they ended up getting knocked off in that first round game.
The first round, the by-district round, yeah.
Yep. So we'll see if they can bounce back from that. But another team is the El Paso High girls. I think they could surprise some teams. But I think overall, like I said, it's going to come down to maybe, like I said, District 7, but possibly even District 8. Like I said, don't count out Midlothian Heritage. I think don't sleep on them. Right. They could make another run.
That's very true. And actually, that's who they'll play against, I believe, in the first round of the playoffs. District 7 versus District 8, I believe. Yeah. So
that could lead to some surprises there, because District 8 might be your sleeper, I don't know. It might be, it might be your underrated district, I think, in this region, right? Because they are a lot stronger. You look at Mansfield Summit is a lot stronger.
Timberview,
right?
Timberview too.
Your Timberview is a lot stronger. Midlothian as well, and then just by virtue of Heritage being in that district now, they're significantly stronger, right? So. And yes, Heritage makes the jump up from 4A, but they have that pedigree. They have those experienced players that return, right? So they know what it's like with that pressure, that pressure-filled, playoff environment. They're well versed in that. So, excuse me.
Well, and their non-district schedule, I'm sure their non-district schedule is probably a strong one as well, even while they were in 4A.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I mean, they're used to playing the 5A teams and possibly even 6A teams in pre-district matches.
Absolutely. When I look at Region 1, I think 1 and 2, right? District 1 and 2, all roads go through essentially El Paso and Del Valle, right? El Paso High and Del Valle in 1 and 2. El Paso High has potentially could be the best team that they've had in a generation, right? Still a young team, right? A young team, but a very, very good, very well experienced team. Lots of club players that are playing at a very high level, and multiple D1 commits as well on that team. And Del Valle, Rafa hit on it. Coach Sazo, I think Coach Sazo is going to have them ready to go, recovering from last year's shock loss in the by-district round. So I think they'll be those two teams who I think will be the big favorites coming out of the El Paso area. And then District 3, District 4, you always get someone that is just knocks off one or two big giants along the way, right? So excuse me. And then I'll be curious to see District 6. Can someone rise out of that district and be something like a Diamond Hill Jarvis at the 4A level on the boys' side? Can someone rise out of that district? Yeah, and don't forget Alito. You got Alito there. Every rider kind of gets the press, but you have Alito there in District 5, which I think is going to have a say for sure. So, all right. Okay, so we move on to our final region, our classification, I should say, in 6A. So we will start. So again, also 8 districts 1 through 8 in classification 6A. We'll start with the men's side again. Rafa, thoughts?
I think this is probably one to get out of this region. You're gonna have to have also some luck on your side, but also just you gotta play pitch perfect soccer. I think anybody can beat anybody in this region. I mean, look at El Paso. You got some quality team like Eastlake. Eastlake's been the class there in El Paso the last few years. They fell short these last couple ones. Is this their breakout season that they finally get to to Georgetown? District 2 is also a dogfight. You got a good Wilford Friendship team. They got a lot of talent there. A lot of those players, I know they play for the FC Dallas Lubbock club team, so they got them going there. Keep an eye out also on Odessa High. They got a good team. Same thing with San Angelo Central. District 3, another barber of a district. I mean, look at Euless Trinity, Hearst Bell, Region 4, Keller's well, even though they faltered a bit, which we'll discuss in a minute. But Keller's still probably the favorite. But you also look at teams like Keller Central. You also look at our North Byron Nelson. Byron Nelson's another great team. And then you have South Lake Carroll. The Carroll boys are also top notch. So you got it's a tough district there. Same thing with District 5. You got Allen. You got Denton Geyer. The McKinney teams, they have some great teams. Prosper. 6 is another group of district. You got Coppell, Farmount, Hebron, Marcus, and then you got your Plano schools. Who Plano in the past have had some good soccer programs, and then 7 got tougher with Highland Park moving up, and you got Dallas Jesuit.
Yeah.
That's and then the surprise team right now in that District 7 is the Irving team. They've been some really good teams, which I'll showcase in a bit. And then District 8's another one. The Arlington Martins, like I said, them, Lamar, which can you say in them? But even the Grand Prairie teams, they got some good squads. So you kind of pick your poison here. It's like there's no really clear-cut favorite to win it all because anybody can beat anybody in this district. I mean, in this region.
Yeah. Steve, thoughts?
Yeah, no, historically it's a lot of those teams in District 7, District 6 are teams that you see, in Georgetown at State. So that's the district that kind of sticks out with me, but like Rafa alluded, and District 7, of course, District 1, that's just competitive each and every year, with all those El Paso teams, kind of stacked into that first district. And just each one of these districts is just going to be, it's going to be tough to get out of for 6A boys, Region 1. So, but yeah, you got the McKinneys in District 5, you've got Allen in District 5, Prosper, District 6, you got Coppell, who's, won state multiple times. So Louisville, you got Flower Mound, Hebron, Marcus, Plano, who made it out for the boys last year.
Mm-hmm. And I guess that's the real question is like odds of Plano being able to defend their regional title. Realistic odds.
Realistic odds. You don't really get in this region because they're so competitive. You don't really get the back-to-back region champions, because there's so much competitiveness from District 1 all the way to District 8. So, reading off the last region champion was Plano in 2022. 2021 was Allen. Louisville, Flower Mound was in 2019. Of course, pandemic in 2020. So then you've got 2018 Irving, 2017 Arlington, Houston, 2016 Capel, and then 2015 was the first year we went to 6A, and that was actually Arlington, Houston again. So only one, multiple region champion out of that region one was that Arlington Sam Houston in 2015 and 2017. So the odds are for Plano to run it back again. It's kind of against them just due to the fact that there's so many, solid boys teams in this region.
Yeah.
It's just it's going to take some luck as well, like Rafael said.
Yeah.
But
always luck come state playoff
always
time.
luck.
That's a part of the recipe.
You got to be peaking at the right time also.
Yeah, and Dallas Jesuit is another team that's constantly there competing. They make it to state every now and then, but if not, you're seeing them in the regional for Region 4. So and then don't even disregard those Richardson teams. Lake Highlands, Pierce, Richardson, Berkner. So and then Irving as well. So all around, this is just a super tough
murderers row
exactly to come out of this. It's gonna be interesting to see who actually holds the crown for Region 1 and takes this in the next couple months. So
all right, we move on. Excuse me. We move on to the women's side. I'll make this one simple. South Lake Carroll versus the Field, right?
Yes, exactly. It's all
who there are we could make the argument that there are maybe 3 to 5 that if they come out ready to go on their best day, and South Lake Carroll maybe not on their best day, who can emerge? Who can take on the defending state champion here?
So I think, Dallas Highland Park has an opportunity to, dethrone them for coming out of District 7. Then you jump over. I think the strongest district, though, is probably going to be District 6 with Capel, the Louisville teams, and the Plano teams. As far as, for the girls 6A, any one of those teams are also able to compete with that Carroll team, and if Carroll doesn't show up to play, that could be a long day for them. But I mean, 3 words: South Lake Carroll Dragons versus
I mean, you can make the legitimate you can make the legitimate argument, and this is no disrespect to the other 3 regions, but if South Lake Carroll can get through this region, it's like they have to feel pretty good about their odds in Georgetown, right? If they can get through this region. Rafa?
Yeah, I mean, there's South Lake Carroll and there's everybody else, but there might be some sleeper contenders here that can probably catch them on a bad day. One team I keep an eye out, because they had a lot of high hopes last year that we thought we were probably going to make it, was win the region, was Prosper. Prosper's, they're right now, they're undefeated. They've had they do have some ties, but they tied against the Woodlands. The Woodlands girls are no slouch. They tied Ridgepoint, and that was another state ranked team that made it to the Final Four. And like I said, they tied Midlothian. So keep an eye on Prosper, but also from District 6. I think when you're in a district like that, you're already battle tested. You're playoff ready to go. And I think Marcus, Hebron, Flower Mound, and even Capel, I think they could challenge. And like I said, they could challenge them maybe in that second or third round game. Same thing with District 5. You got Allen, The McKinney Boyd is another one, like we're including with Prosper is another one team. Denton Geyer, great team. As far as with maybe Region 1, 2, 3, that's his first challenging Salt Lake Carroll. I just don't see any of those teams. But maybe if they're not in the same bracket with them, they don't see Salt Lake Carroll, maybe go 2, 3 deep. I mean, like looking at an El Paso team, like, for example, like Franklin could be one of them. Eastlake, they could make a run. One perennial part is the San Angelo Central girls. They've always had a good squad. They can go 2 deep. I think they literally could win the first round playoff game if they win their district. District 3, like I said, it'll be, that's going to be a tough one. But North Crowley's has a good squad. Same thing with Euless. So, but overall, like I said, it's South Lake Carroll's Region 1 title to lose. And for them, like I said, I just don't see anyone challenging them going into the state tournament.
I think in the regional, you could probably see some,
tight games,
some type games, because if you look at the regional from last year, South Lake Carroll, in the region semifinal against Allen, 1-0. So that's a 1-0 game. That's either way. That game could go either way. Then you go, and that was Allen coming out of District 5. They advanced. They go to the final against Flower Mound Marcus, 2-0 win. So that could be another, a team that we spoke about in District 6 that can potentially knock them off. And 2-0 is not, that's not a heavy win. Of course, we didn't actually watch the game, but historically 2-0 games are pretty close. It's probably a pretty close game. So yeah, you never know.
Speaking of Allen, they actually faced Flower Mound and they lost 3-0 to Flower Mound.
Okay, so Flower Mound, the Jaguars, not Marcus, right? Flower Mound. Okay,
Not Marcus.
Wow.
So that's
so
like
this
I said,
will be. Go ahead, Rafa. Go ahead.
Like I said, you can see that. Like I said, those are the teams. Like I said, that little bunch probably below South Lake Carroll that could probably, like you mentioned, could catch them on an off day, and then knock them off.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Prosper. That would make for a great redemption story after them coming up significantly short with expectations the last 2 years, right? Being eliminated so early, and the same thing. And then Highland Park will be kind of a mystery to begin with, right? To start, we'll see. We know they have talent. We know they're well coached. How quickly can they make the adjustment to their new district to 6A, and the grind of District 7 as well, and then District 6. I mean, can Flower Mound return to to the glory of 2 years ago, make a deep run? So these are schools with those pedigrees. Flower Mound's just the year before last removed from a state title themselves. So the experience they have from that squad this year, I think maybe they come across a South Lake Carroll. They're not. They're going to be well aware of their skill, their talent, but maybe so much of this is going to be a head game, is psychological going into it, right? Is that you're not it's like, oh my God, this is South Lake Carroll. They're the ranked third in the nation right now, and they're killing people and this and that. So much of it is going to be that. But I think, as I said, you can make the argument if South Lake Carroll survives this region, it is going to be hard to stop them. Period, but it's going to be hard to stop them if they can survive this region, I think.
And they're in a tough district as well,
Correct.
So,
correct.
That being said, they're going against Keller teams and Eaton as well, who's a solid team within that district. I want to say all the everyone in District 4 won their first round match last year, and so they knocked off all of the District 3 teams. And advanced to second and third round. Matter of fact, I want to say, even Keller made it all the way to the regional. And
I was going to say, I think they were regional semifinal.
Semifinalists. They lost to Marcus on the other regional semifinal. So South Lake Carroll has got their hands full just in district as well. So but yeah, no, that's kind of like how we were talking about Alamo Heights girls here. you know, they're in a tough district, so you know they're not going to be on cruise control all season long. It's going to be, hey, look, you know, we have to, you know, show up each and every game. So yeah, that's going to be something for Carroll. They'll be playoff ready come, you know, March and April.
Like Carroll did have two setbacks last year. Like they had lost. The one loss they had was against Lake Travis, which they're actually going to play, I think, each other this coming weekend at that Georgetown show, the Girls Governors Cup. So that'll be a test for them to see how that is. And then the other one was a tie against Byron Nelson, and also with Keller. Keller tied them too last year. So Keller may have the secret as far as the formula, maybe, and how to find a way to stop them and so forth into the district play. But like I said, I think the girls from South Carolina, even though they have the big target in the back, I think they have the pedigree, and I think they have the maturity to kind of rise to the occasion when there's some adversity.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for our Region 1 preview for 4A through 6A for both men's and women's programs. Guys, this has been great. Great episode 3. Thank you for being here. Again, Steve, so as our newest team partner, right? Or a teammate, I guess, if you will. You know, we're looking forward to having you here contributing throughout the season. Excited to have you on. And as you know, we always wrap up our episodes with final thoughts. So whether it's just anything that's on your mind regarding the game, any messages, thank yous, shout outs, anything you want to share, we're going to go ahead and wrap up with final thoughts now. The floor is yours.
All right. Yeah, no, go out there and support these, you know, high school teams that we've been, you know, speaking about. And I'm not just talking, you know, our region 4 here in San Antonio. You know, I'm sure we've got listeners, you know, in all 4 of the regions. So go out there and support them, whether it's your school that you pull for or not. You know, go out there and watch a game. Even the teams that we haven't spoke about, go out there and watch their matches, because those coaches and those players and those trainers and, you know, schools are trying to, you know, they're working their butts off to produce the best product for themselves. So, you know, go out there and support them as well. So, you know, I'm all about, you know, youth soccer, as far as, you know, anywhere from kids I've coached from, you know, 7-8-year-olds all the way up to 17-18-year-olds. So, you know, it's always fun for those kids, regardless of their age, to go and look over and see, you know, folks in the stands, you know, supporting them. So, you know, wherever you can, whenever you can, you know, go out there to those games and support the kids as much as possible.
And again, he is Steve Sanchez. He is our newest contributor to the 50/50 podcast team, as well as joining us here on Inside Texas High School Soccer. Steve, excited to have you on, man.
Yeah.
There we go. Had to give you the air horn there.
Thank you, Hector. So, no, it's great. It's great being part of the team, and you know, I look forward to seeing you guys out at the fields, this and that. So thank you very much, Hector, and Rafa as well.
Absolutely, man. Excited to have you on. Excited to grow. Let's continue to grow this thing. Showcase our sport. Showcase our athletes across the state. So
and real quick, I'm sorry, Hector. Real quick that's my Twitter handle there, STVOS 78, and then, you know, on the Instagram side, I don't have a soccer handle on there, but if, like we kind of spoke about a little bit earlier, shameless plug here is I do have a little barbecue business, and it's Royal Barbecue. So, but that being said, I do support local soccer on there as well, on that page as well, as far as my stories are concerned. So that one is at Royal Barbecue, and it's ROYAL BARBECUE. So Royal Barbecue is the Instagram handle that I you know, have as well.
So if I'm hearing you right, you're all about soccer as long as it doesn't involve barbecue, right? Barbecue trumps soccer. Is that what you're telling us here?
It could go either way. You know, it depends.
Put you on the spot, man. Put you on the spot. So, all right.
We might have to have some barbecue for the bracketology.
Yeah, every game now. Every game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for bracketology for sure.
Yeah, we'll do a DoorDash. out y'all's way.
Yeah, that might have to be an in-person podcast this year, Rafa. You know,
It could be.
live in person. So
Out from the backyard in the barbecue pit.
good.
Well, he saw the pit yesterday, so yeah,
Good deal.
we might have to be out there.
Be on the lookout. Maybe we get a fresh Instagram, a soccer specific Instagram page for our newest team member here in Steve. So we'll see. More to come. So.
More to come. More to come.
Just like this coming week, like I said, for San Antonio Soccer Roundtable, we'll have our episode on Wednesday, our episode 2 for the high school season, just a wrap up of the local San Antonio tournament showcases, some of the games I went to, and also the previews. Actually, probably could cover the big game tomorrow between Lee and Brandeis, kind of go overview of that, and then also the preview to the O'Connor Taft game on Friday night. So you'll probably see me out there live streaming, commentating. So we're on, like I said, the live stream will be on our San Antonio Soccer Roundtable Facebook page, but you also can follow us on Twitter and also on now Instagram. We're on Instagram now. Hope the teams are off. The follow us like the music when we retweet their stuff, and then we're also on
You
YouTube.
got to throw that Facebook page link on Twitter, because that seems to be like the number one question that I get. It's like, hey, what do I search on Facebook, or what do I call it? And I said, or tell Rafa to put the Facebook link on Twitter. You know,
I'll make sure of that.
I'll make sure of that all the time.
Rafa, what's y'all's Instagram handle?
The Instagram handle, it's let me get that really quick.
Is it that SATX?
Yeah, I think it's SATX Soccer 210. I
So
believe.
210. I thought it started with 210.
Yeah, we just started a new one. Yeah, STA.
Uh-oh, did we lose him? Way to go, Steve.
He's in Instagram land.
You made him do research.
There he is. Okay, do it again, Rafa. Do it again.
Yeah. So that's SATX Soccer 210.
There you go. Instagram handle. Say that again one more time.
SATX Soccer 210.
All right, there we go. Great job. Thank you, guys. Gentlemen, this has been great. Thank you for being here. My final thoughts, pretty simple. Just thank you to all the teams, all the programs, all the coaches, all the administrators, all the parents, all the volunteers over the last couple of weeks. And, these tournaments that take place all over the state, they're no small feat, right? There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, as well as the officials. We know where we're at in terms of the state of the game with officials as well. So a lot of people have to make this happen in order for our student athletes to shine. So thank you. A big thank you to all of you. And as we start, some districts, as we know, have already started district play with at least one district game, but not everybody across the board has started district play. We won't see that completely really until next week, but a lot of districts will start officially this week. So we want to wish you, each and every one of you, the absolute best of luck, because right now, with the exception of the handful of districts that have already played at least a match, everyone's still undefeated in district play, meaning everyone still has hope. Everyone still has that shot, has that opportunity. So make the most of your opportunities, and let's continue to grow this. Let's continue to grow this this brand, the coverage of it in terms of what we're doing in Texas high school soccer. So, because I think most people would agree that where we're going, the projection and how much the coverage has grown, particularly inside of the last, since the pandemic to now, has been extraordinary. We're just excited, happy to be a small part of it, play a little role in it, and be able to be a part of it with individuals such as Rafa and Steve. So thank you to you all, gentlemen. And to our listeners, to our supporters, thank you for all that you do in support of us. We continue to grow, and we're grateful for that now being listened to in 45 different countries, smashing all of our, daily, weekly, monthly download goals. So grateful for you, really, truly grateful for you. So cannot mention that enough. So thank you. And again, you can find us on social media, on Twitter at 50_50pod. Again, that's at 50_50pod. On Instagram at 50_50 podcast. So Instagram has podcast versus pod. That's a big one. We get those mixed up all the time. And then you go on YouTube, subscribe, sign up for the notifications where you can get the live notifications of when we go live as well. So go on there on the podcast platforms. You can find us on all major podcast platforms. Go on there, write us a review. If you think we're great, write that we're great. If you think we stink and we need to work on that, tell us that too. Don't tell us that. I'm just kidding. No, put it on there. And, because we're committed to making this, making the absolute best content that we can in support of you all, in support of our sport. So thank you. Thank you to everybody. So until the next time, you know what to do. Keep downloading and keep listening.
You've been listening to the 50/50 Podcast, powered by College Promoters USA. Help us continue to grow by liking, rating, and subscribing on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at 50_50pod, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube at the 50_50 podcast. Until the next time, keep downloading and keep listening.